Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. With me on the show this week is award-winning porn performer and OnlyFans creator, Haley Spades. She is one of these performers that is incredibly creative. She's incredibly empowered, has her own agency over her work, isn't afraid to speak up about things, not do things that maybe people want her to do. We're going to go on the journey of how she went from stripping at 18 to put herself through college to joining OnlyFans during the pandemic and doing sort of solo masturbating cosplay sort of content, to her joining the adult industry, being sort of typecast for a little while as the stepdaughter, the stepsister, and then breaking all of that apart into pieces and doing a showcase with an anal scene, a double penetration scene, and a gangbang, and how then all of a sudden she realized she loved all of that. And so there's more anal content, there's more double penetrations, there's more gangbangs. It's an amazing episode. Haley is smart, she's talented, she's creative. You guys are going to love it. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Haley Spades.
This week's conversation.
Haley Spades, welcome to Sex Party. How are you doing?
I am great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
You know, we talked a bit before we started recording. I am great. I'm wonderful, but the eagle eye listeners and viewers might pick up on my exhaustion, or maybe since I'm just a nut anyway, they're like, they don't notice anything at all. So I'm just going to go with the fact that I'm great. Speaking of the listeners, the wonderful party goers, the audience members, for those people in the audience who don't know who you are, they've never heard the name, they've never seen the work. I know, but there's some people out there that haven't, right? Could you talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am Haley Spades. I am an adult performer, porn star, content creator, cosplayer, model, all of that fun stuff. I stream a little bit here and there. I haven't lately, but I do a lot of online fun stuff, right? And I'm very petite. I'm award-winning. I am a nerd. I love anime. I love video games, cosplay, and yeah, I'm just super fun and bubbly, and that's like kind of what I'm known for. And I kind of like have like a big concentration and focus on like a lot of the like cosplay, gamer girl kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of your favorite cosplays that you've done?
Oh man, I have so many.
Give me like a top three.
Oh man, top three. Oh, okay. I would say A2 from Nier Automata, 02 from Darling in the Franxx, and then Diva from the video game Overwatch. Those are my top three.
Okay. So you're definitely into the gaming, anime, just like you said, you just dead on, right?
Yeah, I'm like legit into it. Like I'm not like, I'm like really into it. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're not going to call anybody out, but there are people who just are into it to be like popular and like, you know, get the money made or whatever. And hey, good for you guys, but you're definitely not one of those.
No, I can answer questions about anime and gaming, and I have a whole setup, and I've been this kind of like way, I guess, like these have been my hobbies since I was young. So yeah, it kind of shows.
What video game do you remember was like the first video game system that you remember having?
I would probably say, oh man, I think a GameCube was my very, very first, and a PlayStation 2. Nice. I even had a Nintendo 64. I had like old fucking consoles, right? And then I got into PC gaming when I was like, I want to say like 11 or 12. And then I stopped PC gaming as an adult when I went to college. And then I picked it back up on PC gaming just in the last 2 years. So yeah, I've done it all. I have all the consoles. I have a Nintendo Switch. I have an Xbox. I have a PlayStation 5. I have a PC. So yeah, I have it all.
Yeah, I mean, PlayStation 2 is the one that, I mean, I had a Nintendo 64. I never had a GameCube, but like PlayStation 2 is like OG as fuck. We love that. That's fucking,
yeah. I'm like, I think my younger brother, he actually like years later took apart the PlayStation 2 that we had grown up with. I don't know what for, but he did something random and nerdy with it. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, so look, I mean, you have a pretty cool origin story, right? As does any character in anime, and as in any character in you sort of like came to this adult world during the pandemic, it looks like. Again, when we talk about people's origin stories, they're all over the place. I think every origin story, like, is a great one. But were you stripping before you started doing adult content? Like, was that before the pandemic? Like, walk us through from like stripping to like how you get to the adult world.
So yeah, I stripped my way through college. That's how I paid for college. I graduated during the pandemic in 2020. And so at that time, just graduated college. My main source of income was in the strip clubs, right? So pandemic, clubs closed. So at that point, everybody was going on to OnlyFans. And I had tried out camming and stuff like beforehand, but it wasn't really like my thing. But when I was kind of forced into like that online market, I actually ended up really enjoying it and found that like the cosplay niche and gamer nerdy kind of like niche were very fitting for me, and I actually really, really liked it. So from there, I kind of progressed with it like throughout 2020, and then at the very end of 2020, I realized, like there's no going back. I am already all over the internet naked, I was okay with it, but I was like, okay, like if I am already doing this, I should just go do porn. So it kind of like, it was like a business mindset for me. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I should just do it. Right. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was kind of like put on me, but it was always like kind of deep into me, like doing like sex work as a whole, because as a stripper in college, I knew I was not going to go work a corporate 9-to-5 office job, because I really liked, I guess like expressing myself sexually and like doing that kind of like autonomy, like positive, like fun, lucrative work. And I've always loved like kind of like just being like out there and putting myself out there. So I did know that I was not going the usual corporate route, even though I was in college and I graduated, and I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. But I finished my degree because I'm not a quitter.
That's awesome. That's really awesome, actually. Okay, lots of stuff there to dive in on. One, I think like stripping your way through college is like the real American story. Like that is such an American tale that no one talks about, because it's a great source of income. It's a incredibly difficult job. People underestimate how hard it is to deal with the fucking clientele that come in there. And
I was on like a nighttime schedule most of the time. Then I had to get up and go to classes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. But and you also have like a work a pole and fucking, it's a lot, right? And so when you started stripping, was that just out of necessity for money, or did you inside did you feel like, this kind of does feel cool and sexy and empowering as well, and I'm okay with it, I'm going to try it? Or was it just a financial decision?
Initially it was kind of a financial decision. So I was 18. I was going to LSU, and I've touched on this briefly in some of my other like interviews, but I was 18. I was in the wrong place, wrong time. I was in a car in Florida. We got pulled over and there was weed in the car, right? So me and the two other passengers were in this car that ended up being searched, probably illegally. We got pulled over because of speeding, but then they searched, like they took everything out the car. We just come back from a music festival. So anyways, they found some weed and they found what they thought was acid, because it was like a sheet of tabs. It was apparently a bunch of research chemicals. It was fake drugs. The only time you want fake drugs, apparently. But so nobody owned up to it, but it was all in one person's bag, right? So it's like, that's yours. And so they arrested all of us because nobody owned up to it. Anyway, so I had a clean drug test. I was the goody two shoes. I was just the one driving the car, speeding. But so at that time, you're 18. So yeah, I had to call my mom from jail. I'm in college. I'm broke, and then I have to go back for like my court like hearings and stuff. And I'm like shitting my pants. I'm like, I have no money. I just had to like post like my $500 bond or whatever. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Like you're 18 and you're like, oh fuck, I got arrested for drugs. Like my life is over. Like I have to pay for all of this. My parents weren't mad at the time because I ended up having a clean drug test. So they were like, okay. Also, my parents smoked weed, but my parents were like, okay. They're like, your test is clean. Like, all right, this is just stupid. So I wasn't in trouble or anything, but at that point, like I was like thinking about like all these things I was going to have to pay for. The police officer that actually arrested all of us threatened to extradite me if the sheet came back positive for LSD. It didn't. I didn't even know that was in the car until he had said that when I was being released from jail, right? Like I was doing all my paperwork, getting back my belongings, and the officer who had arrested me and the two other people said, hey, just so you know, we're going to extradite you from Louisiana. And I was like, you're going to do what? So fear, right? So I go back to my restaurant job, and one of the girls that I worked with used to be a dancer, used to be a stripper. And I was kind of like talking to all the girls I worked with, and I was like, I don't really know what to do. Like I'm like explaining everything. They're like, you should go talk to Emily and like see like how to get into dancing, because that might be what you can do to make money and be okay. And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. I ended up getting on my feet, learning how to be a dancer, because somebody at the restaurant I worked at as a hostess helped me. And then, like my charges were dropped at the end of the day, because there was no basis for them to charge me. The sheet ended up being fake. My drug test was clean. The guy ended up, pleading guilty and, accepting like a, like a probation and stuff like that.
Sure.
So they ended up throwing out all of my stuff. I got the bond money back. So at that point, though, I had already been stripping for about a month. And I had actually realized, I was like, this is actually fun. The money's good. I'm now comfortable doing it after a month. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to stick to it. I was like, why not? So that's what I did. I stuck to it. And I did realize I really liked kind of presenting myself, and like being open and like, kind of, I don't know, just being a little bit like carefree, right? And just not caring. I loved that. I had a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, and so, I mean, wrong place, wrong time. What the fuck? I mean, it sets you on this incredible path. Amazing. I feel like that's, and some of the things that I hope the audience gleaned from that is she's not a quitter. She doesn't give up. That'll be important later. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. We might be in episode title territory with that. And, like you learned from that situation, like one of the hardest jobs in stripping, because again, it's not an easy job. Will you take a second and just explain to them how difficult stripping really is?
Yeah. So going into stripping, I was 18, right? I was 18 at the time. I was kind of like freaking out because I was like, oh my God, I have to pay for so much stuff. I feel like my life's over. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a broke college student. I was already in debt. Like, I didn't know what to do. Right. It was just kind of like one of those, like, this is what happens. Like, you're like, oh fuck, I really need money. I guess I'm going to go work the pole. Right. That's what people say. But like, that's literally how I felt. So I'm 18. Super, super young. And honestly, I don't think 18-year-olds should be working in the strip club. I'm not somebody that says like, oh, it should be 21 and up. I just don't think 18-year-olds should, necessarily go seek out a job. Like, I get it out of necessity. That's what I had to do. But, it's a very hard and kind of daunting, like environment. Like, you're freshly 18, usually you're not thinking straight, like, and you don't know who to trust. You don't know who to listen to. You don't know what to do, essentially. And like, you're just thinking like, oh, money, money, money. You're working with usually a lot of older girls that are actually trying to help you. But like, there's just like, you're kind of just thrown in with the sharks, right? It's very overwhelming. And like, you're all of a sudden approached and groped and touched by all these grown men. And like, you're really wanting money and you don't even know where your own boundaries are. Right. So it's very, very hard. And, like I said, I don't recommend it for somebody who's freshly 18 and just doesn't really like know what they're getting into, because I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was very scared, but I ended up learning very quickly and finding out my boundaries and being okay. But it can be a very, very scary life.
Yeah, I mean, there's the physical difficulties, and then just like the clientele, the mental difficulties. Everyone's like jockeying for a position. They want you to do well, but not too well, not better than them. And so there's all these like mind games and things that are going on. You're right. I mean, 18, I couldn't fucking imagine. Like I could not imagine. I was going to strip clubs at 18. It was just like, you know.
And then also like you're like in this like kind of like catty competitive environment, right? Like in the strip club, like where the girl's like, oh, new girl. And then like, they're like, we've been here for so many years. And then like, you're like, you just don't feel like you belong. It's kind of like high school, right? It's very scary. And like, you're kind of like, I don't want to get fired. Like, I don't want to make anybody mad. So like, you feel like you're walking on glass and like you're working late nights and like, you don't know what you're doing. Essentially, you do have to like kind of learn the ropes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for real. Do you think that experience, the difficulties, the competitiveness, like the kind of like boxer mentality you had to have, and you learned that quickly? Do you think that then, and the fact that you don't give up, right? You follow through, you're not a quitter. Do you think that all of that then gave you the mentality to go into, or has helped you in porn and OnlyFans and all of that?
Yeah, I would say so, because I used to always make jokes like when I was younger and like finishing high school and then like in college, I was like, I could just, quit school and go be a porn star. I used to say that jokingly to a couple of my friends.
Yeah.
And so when I set my mind to something, right, like same things like stripping, college, porn, like when I reached out and I got signed with an agency and I had my first shoot, I was committed. There was no backing out, because I don't ever want to be a quitter unless like your intuition's like screaming at you, like don't do that. But if I'm like taking these steps and I know it's legit, I'm like, if I'm doing all of this effort and telling all my friends like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go through with it, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah. See, you and I have that in common, because people think I'm insane. Like they're like, oh my God, this guy's still going on the podcast. I used to be a nightclub promoter, and I'm sure you know how cutthroat that fucking job is. It's like the for me, it was like hardest job I ever had. Loved it. Like was, same thing, like massive competition, but the guy who doesn't sleep is the guy who always comes out on top. So while everyone's like, doing lines of Coke and drinking in the bar, I'm like out there, like one hand, like on, Facebook promoting, the other hand, like flyering cars. And it turned out after a few years, I had a lot of success in that field. And, you have to, there's some people that just like will dial it in and grind it out like you. And then there's people that are just like, no. And they just kind of bounce from one thing to the next. So I'm glad that we got that, like your fucking, we'll call it your fighter mentality.
Yeah, I'm like a hustler, like I'm a hustler. Yeah. Like when I put my mind to something, I don't ever want to quit it. Like when it feels personal. Like, yeah. Especially like if I tell people like what I'm doing, I'm like, okay. I'm like, now I gotta prove them that I'm going to actually do this. It's like an ego thing,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it feels so personal. There's just something like, there's like an animalistic thing inside you. Like I just can't wait for like 5 years from now to be like, how is Dustin on episode 1000? This fucking asshole. I wish he would just die. You know what I mean? Like that's my, it's not my motivation, but it just kind of like feels good. It feels like,
you want to be like, showed you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more for myself, as you know. It's just like when you sink your teeth into something, it's just like you just don't let go of it. Yeah, like it is like an ego thing, and like totally. That's what it is. Maybe we're just egomaniacs. I don't know. Either way, I think it's great. I love that we've established that. When you jump to OnlyFans, you said you're doing like more of like cosplay, anime, which it was all solo
content too. It was all solo.
That's what my question was going to be. So this is you picking a costume and like, doing the makeup and doing all this stuff and putting it all together and having like the aesthetic and all of the cool shit. And then you're like masturbating basically in different scenarios. Okay. So when the first time you did that, what did that feel like? Were you nervous going into that? Were you not so nervous?
I wasn't really that nervous actually. To me, it just kind of didn't really matter at the time. It was during the pandemic. So I was kind of like, this is what you got to do. Like I had worked in nude clubs, it's like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm naked, like scared. And like, right. I don't know. I was just like, this is what I have to do. I didn't really like feel any nerves or anything. I was a little bit nervous about like, oh my God, am I even gonna like succeed at this? That was my concern. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so scared of being naked on the internet. No, it was like, is this going to be worth it?
Yeah. Well, and so was it worth it? Like how soon did you find out that you were going to be successful?
I was like, I want to say like a couple months in, and like I had like a pretty decent amount of income coming in. I had a decent amount of fans, and then I was able to connect with other creators and kind of learn the ropes with like promoting and social media, right? So from there, I was able to kind of like maximize the income, and I ended up really, really, really liking it. I liked the attention. I liked, like dialing into my interests and hobbies, and profiting off of that essentially. So I wasn't super, super nervous, and I was making pretty good money. I think because like my confidence was pretty high up. I was also very motivated because I needed money. So I think like I just kind of had like that drive.
Yeah. The fighter spirit.
Also like when people first started OnlyFans at that time, it was like people like you grew up with like in your hometown and friends and stuff. They're like, ooh, she's on OnlyFans. Like it was kind of like a taboo thing, and so like it was very like the floodgates kind of opened for a lot of people. Like I had so many people from like my high school and like college that were like, oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the other thing is too, is during the pandemic, I mean, OnlyFans, like revenue wise for you guys, the creators, like just completely exploded, like from what I understand. And so, I mean, were you just making insane amounts of money, or is it, or was it sort of in 2021 when you did that?
It was 2020. It was 2020 when I was in the content world only.
Okay.
So for the first couple months of doing OnlyFans during like March, April, May, I would say like June-ish from there, only doing OnlyFans, my income gradually went up, which was great, but like it wasn't the same amount of money from stripping. So it was like enough to make things work. And then I started stripping in Florida because Florida opened back up, like they said, fuck all that shit. So I started traveling and living there part-time and working there. But I also kind of started taking OnlyFans a little bit more seriously. And then I was able to see like the numbers go up more. So it was kind of like a slow climb. It kind of took some time and effort and learning, kind of like observing like the market, like coming up with strategies and methods and just kind of like, I don't know, dialing in on that. It was a little bit like difficult, but I will say because of my marketing and business background, I think that helped me out.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too is like you have a bachelor's in marketing, and so I feel like that is always going to help anybody that's doing anything creative, right? And you have that, so
it was also very fresh. I had just graduated, so it was like there.
Yeah. I mean, talk about fucking, alignment. So there's that, because that's the other piece that people I think forget about is a lot of women that ask me about OnlyFans, like around the show or on the whatever, in the DMs, or I want to start, but this, and I don't want to use my, like, and some of these women will have, 1,000, 5,000, 20,000 people that follow them just because they're good looking or whatever. And they want to do an OnlyFans, but they don't want to use that audience because they want to like go do it under a different name, and maybe it's faceless or it's just feet or whatever. And so it's like that, at that point, then you have to build a whole other thing and market it. So I mean, but you said that people like from your high school and shit were finding you. So was that intentional on your part? And like how do you feel about not using your own name and doing under an alias and like in whatever, like, because its opinions seem to be mixed.
So basically, I was kind of okay with it. I didn't really know how to exactly like navigate it. So, I was using my personal Instagram when I was stripping, and I stripped under multiple different names, but the people who followed my Instagram knew I was stripping, right? So when it was time for the switch to OnlyFans, I didn't really know what to do in the terms of like an alias or like a persona, a character. Yeah. Haley is my legal first government name. So at first my name was just Haley, right? At that point though, I started realizing, okay, I need something else after that. So that's when I came up with Spades. But so for me, like I I don't know. It doesn't really feel that weird to me because the people that I grew up with that already knew I was doing OnlyFans already knew I was doing it at the time because they were just kind of, they were presented it. It was already like in their face. So for me, it's not really that weird. I actually liked it. I was like, I used to be like the goody two shoes, like innocent girl growing up. And now they're like, oh my God. So for me, it wasn't really difficult. It was just kind of like doing what I had to do, but also like kind of liked it, but didn't really like, I don't know, affect me.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that answer. I absolutely love that answer because it's like right down the middle, and clearly you're confident in who you are. And I think, people are just worried about starting up the OnlyFans and going to the fucking barbecue and everyone's like, whispering and, slut shaming and all the fucking bullshit. So
yeah, well, if you're worried about that, you shouldn't be doing it.
Okay.
That's, like if you don't want people to know that you're doing sex work online, you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You should accept that it's out there forever and ever and ever. It is.
Yeah, and the upside is that you get the bag afterwards. So that's that.
Yeah, I'm like there was no downside for me.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Okay, so is there a point when you graduate from solo content on OnlyFans to partnered content? Like, did you do boy-girl stuff? Did you do girl-girl stuff? Like, did you do other stuff outside solo on OnlyFans, or did you just stick with solo? And what did that look like?
So I only did solo. I was in a long-term relationship at the time. I had a boyfriend who was actually helping me shoot a lot of my content, actually. But he was very insecure. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. Very insecure. And like, it was like, it was kind of like a tense time, like lockdown. I was the breadwinner. I was kind of being taken advantage of. So I kind of had like, some resentment built up. And then like, I wanted to pursue porn. I wanted to go bigger with my content. I was only doing solo content while we were together. We were living together. I was paying all the bills and shit. That's another thing. Like, I was paying all of our bills. And so, I was still doing solo content, but when I was like, hey, if I'm really going to do this, if I really want to make a lot of money, I'm going to go do porn. And at first he was like, yeah, I'm okay with it. But then he ended up not being okay with it, which is fine. So I didn't start doing partner content until I joined the industry, the porn industry.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a canon event there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely. So did you make the call? Did someone find you? How did you get into the porn industry?
So I made the call.
She made the call.
I went on to Google and I looked up this, like, so when people ask me like, how do I get into porn? Can you help me get into porn? This is how you get into porn. I looked up best porn agencies. And then lists came up, right? And it's like, yeah, like you don't really know what you're looking at because you're not in the know, like you're not really versed in like, like, oh, is this legit, right? Which is scary. So what I did was I would look at the roster of girls and then I would go to their Twitter and I would go see what they're posting, see if they're legit, see like what's going on, and kind of make my own conclusion from that. So that's what I did. And then I reached out to 2 agencies. One of them called me the next day, and that was how it happened. Right. So, I know it was kind of a gamble. And like at the time, like my boyfriend back home in New Orleans, he was like, are you sure this is legit? Are you sure? I was like, I promise this is legit. Like, I mean, obviously like nobody really know. I mean, I honestly didn't know 100%, but from my, my research, I had felt very confident and it was legit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I did. That's how you get into porn. Look up agencies in porn and then apply.
No, yeah, that's fucking awesome. We love that because that's very pragmatic, and yet people are like, wait, what? And we've had people that are always talking about the website like Sexy Jobs or whatever. But I think how you did it, is even better, right? Because it's like straight to the bullseye, basically, and then you go and do market research. So, okay, your first porn scene, they're like, sure, come on in, right? So you whatever. They do they kick you an idea for a scene? What was it? Like, was it a boy girl? Was it whatever? What did that scene contain? How did you feel? Were you nervous? What happened?
So my first scene was one of those kind of casting videos, which is
casting couch things,
that's
right?
kind of like it wasn't casting couch specifically, but it was that, that kind of foundation, that whole idea. So I knew what was going on, and I think kind of like my gumption, right? Like to be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove to everybody I'm going to do this. I'm doing what I said I was going to do. So I wasn't really nervous. It was a boy girl. It was like kind of a casting vibe, but I was really excited actually. I was like so new to it. I was actually like fascinated. I was like, oh my God, like I'm actually doing this. And then they had to tell me, like, act like you don't even know you're here shooting porn. Act like you don't know what's going on. You need to be surprised. You need to be hesitant. You need to be like, what's going on? Like, I didn't know this was going to happen, because I was very excited. And they're like, you can't be excited. So that was kind of annoying. I didn't really like, at that point, like, I was like, how do I kind of like not be excited? But like, I also want to like be excited. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was pretty excited. I was just kind of, I wouldn't say nervous. I would say I was just like, kind of like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. There's no going back. Right. It wasn't like a nervousness. It was just kind of like a realization and like kind of, like coming to terms with it. Like, all right, I'm fucking doing this. So I was like a little bit nervous. Like when we started actually fucking, I was like, I'm actually doing this, but not like oh God, scared. Right. Like, it was just like, going back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, I love that, because I feel like a lot of people talk about their first scenes on this show, and it's similar, but you sort of, the way that you put it is that you were excited and you had to like tamp down your excitement. I mean, that's what a great fucking first scene story, right? So as a boy girl, I mean, does it start with a blowjob and then you guys like bang, and like, does it end in a facial cum shot? Is it a cream pie? Like what are the key points of the scene? I think people want to know like what you went through that first time, and then how that sets up the rest of your career. Cause there are you have some amazing accolades. And so I want to like really dive into the nature of the first scene.
So that first scene, it was like a casting thing. So like, oh, like I think I'm doing like a modeling thing. Like I come in like doing like an interview, and they're like, oh, get naked. Like they're like, show off your body. And they're like, well, if you really want, like, it's kind of like a very stereotypical, kind of like a very straightforward scene, like blowjob, sex. And then I think it was I don't think it was a facial. I think it was just a body cum shot for that one. And so for that, it was very tame in my opinion. Even doing that at the time, like I've always been pretty kinky and like kind of like in like the BDSM lifestyle. So for me, I was like, okay, that's it. I was like, that was a breeze, right? And it wasn't like scary, like I said. I just didn't really like how I had to water down my excitement and who I really was on the inside, because I couldn't really showcase that. I felt like it looks like they wanted the hesitation and kind of like scaredy deer in headlights kind of vibe. So yeah.
Well, I mean, in those scenes too, and which is crazy, because, and maybe you can tell if you watch the scene, for those of you out there that are, don't leave and go watch the scene now, stay for the rest of the interview, then go watch the scene. But I feel like the best scenes that are like that, the hesitation, the deer in headlights, like you said, I think that personally, and this is just a fucking Dustin take, maybe we'll have a noise. The editor can put like a noise for it. This is a Dustin take.
It's Dustin's take.
I think they probably only work the best, right, when there is excitement behind the hesitation, right? Because nobody wants like the girl to be like, no, stop. It has to be like, no, stop, or whatever, So I love that there was real excitement behind the hesitation. I mean, how cool.
So basically that scene though, like you couldn't really see my excitement, which is what I didn't like. I wanted to show my excitement. I don't like the hesitation actually. Like, I think there's like a good kind of hesitation, like where it's like, oh no, we might get caught. Like, ooh, versus like, oh no, I'm scared. Like, I think there's a big difference. And the casting video I kind of did, like, it wasn't like a scared. It was just kind of like, oh God, like, I guess I have no choice and I've never done this kind of thing before. Because I had never done it before, right? But
sure.
I don't know. I didn't really want to seem like I was like, oh God, I'm making a mistake. I don't want to do porn, because I actually wanted to be there.
Yeah, that's a little that'd be a little rough trying to tamp that down. And so first of all, did you kick the boyfriend by this point, or was he still with you?
So at this point, that was my first shoot. I was doing the like back and forth. I was going back and forth between LA just for work and back home to New Orleans. I was actually trying to make the relationship work. I was trying to live back home in New Orleans. But after a certain point, I realized I really wanted to go all in on porn. I really loved what I was doing. I was having a lot of fun. I wanted to move to LA, right? And so I had told my partner, my boyfriend at the time, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And he wasn't on board. He was like, I don't want to leave. I don't know why, but I was the one paying for everything. But I mean, regardless, like, I was like, you don't really I was like, what? You want to stay in Louisiana? Okay, fine, but I'm not doing that. So after I think about 2 months of me being in porn, I ditched him basically and moved to Los Angeles by myself. So at the very beginning, I was still trying to make a relationship work. Ended up not working. But I mean, like, that is what it is. I wasn't upset about it. I was just like, look, like, if you're not willing to support me, like, bye. Also, I was the one paying all the bills, so like, didn't really feel like I was losing anything, right?
Right. There's no downside at all. So you leave that first scene. You're like, I hate it. I hate that. And then you leave that relationship eventually. Going forward in adult, because it sounds like shit got crazy pretty fast, right? Because you did win. I mean, best gangbang scene. Okay. Like in between you winning best, doing a fucking gangbang, right? Like leaving that first scene where you had to be tame. Then you're like, okay, I'm out of this relationship. I'm ready to go. I'm kinky as fuck. BDSM, let's roll. So what sort of happens next? Like, what do you gradually get into? Like more like harder, like boy girl stuff. Like if you thought the first one was tame, like what happens next?
So from there, I fit into like the niche, like the typecast of teen, young, like teeny bopper, stepsister, stepdaughter porn. I still to this day, 4 years in, I fall into that niche. So for the most part, it was kind of the same thing over and over and over. It was very, I would say like very straightforward, just very like classic, like nothing crazy or wild. And then I think it started gradually like, doing a boy girl, doing an orgy, but it was still like just like nothing like crazy. I'm trying to like fully remember because I didn't do anything super super crazy until about like, honestly I would say almost about 2 years ago. So about halfway through my career is when I started exploring doing anal, and that's when I started doing like crazier, like more like off the shits, like kink and like, like just like random stuff that wasn't just solely based on like being somebody's stepsister or stepdaughter, right? So I would say about halfway through, like I finally ended up, kind of going further with it, which is what I actually wanted, because being typecasted, but like at the time, like I felt like very stuck and kind of very like almost, I don't know how to say it, like almost like stagnant, but also like kind of like oh man, what's the word? Like I want to say like just kind of like stuck in a way. Like I don't, not like stuck, but like kind of just like I was being overlooked. Like I wasn't being able to show my full potential because I was stuck in this category. Yeah, I feel like I was being underestimated. I was stuck into this certain category. I was kind of getting sick of my height being my entire personality. I was getting sick of it, right? And I was like, what do I have to do? So that's when I realized, like, if I go into doing more hardcore things, I can't necessarily be like somebody's stepsister, because like the more hardcore you're doing, it doesn't really align with the taboo young teeny bopper thing. It really doesn't. Like, who's going to be like, oh, my stepsister, I caught her masturbating, now I'm fucking her in the ass. Like, it's just kind of like over the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. Like it's pretty over the top. I haven't done a single anal scene where I am a stepsister or stepdaughter. I haven't done a single one. Because it is like, it is kind of like, it doesn't really make sense. And so that's kind of why I started doing anal, because I kind of wanted to break free of being like a young teeny bopper, you know, like playing like, oh, like I'm super young and scared and innocent. I wanted to fully like kind of show myself and be authentic on camera. So when I started like kind of doing the more extreme stuff about halfway through in my career, I actually realized I really liked it. And I saw that I was able to break free of that, you know, that typecast of being a teen without getting boobs and becoming a MILF. Right. So it was kind of a gradual thing, but it was also kind of like a thing for me where I was just like sick of it. I was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to kind of go further with my career?
Like, do I need to go get fucked in the ass to show you people that I'm serious?
Literally. Yeah. I was like, what do I have to do? Do I have to go fucking, and then like, so I did the anal, and then like, well, before I even did the anal, I got, you know, offered my showcase, which was like DP, gangbang. And I was like, I haven't even done the anal yet, and you're wanting to do a DP. At that time it was very overwhelming, but I was like, look, like if I really, really want to make a statement and show show everybody, like, look, like I'm not some fucking teeny bopper typecast.
Sure.
Like I am into this, and you know, like there's so much more to me. I was like, that's what I have to do. And then I ended up like, so I did all that and ended up realizing I really liked it. And I really liked how I could be more authentic, right? Instead of feeling like I was watering down who I was.
Yeah. No, I mean, that this is like gold in this interview, because we're sort of, you know, we're going along the story, but there's these huge blasts of things that have happened to you that are like you said, canon events, right? These things that we went from your origin story to all these things that are happening that create, you know, where you are now and the things you're pushing into. I want to jump back just really quickly. And like, besides the annoying feeling of being typecast, as the stepdaughter, as the stepsister, I mean, were there parts of being the stepsister and the stepdaughter that felt taboo and hot and horny, or did you think it was just fucking annoying? Like that actual like role play kind of shit.
I would say for the most part it's very like rinse and repeat. Same shit.
Yeah.
You know, like it gets to a certain point to like where like you are just kind of like operating off of muscle memory. You're so jaded and so like all right, I've done this, blah blah blah. Like it becomes a point to like where it doesn't even feel like you're doing something like new and exciting, because you're really not at the end of the day. For the most part, it just feels like, oh, stepsister again. Okay. You know, like none of it really felt taboo for me. It just felt over the top, to be honest. I think there's only been a couple instances where like something felt like I wouldn't even say taboo, just inappropriate, where I actually like said something and I was like, I'm not gonna go with this, like talking about like, oh, I brought all my friends that are just barely turned 18 for you. I'm like, I'm not fucking saying that. What the fuck? Like that's further than taboo. That's just weird. You know, like so nothing really felt taboo for me, and if it felt too crossing the line, I was like, I'm not doing this, because we do have autonomy and I do speak up.
No, yeah. I mean, if anybody out there can't tell that autonomy and empowerment are part of her personality, right? Like that's because, you know, and that's one of the things that I highlighted in the notes that came from Star Factory PR, which we love, plug, go check them out. But they sent over these wonderful notes. And that was one of the things that I keyed in on immediately is like, oh, gangbang, fucking awesome. We love the psychology of that. We love the physicality of that, whatever. And then, oh, the empowerment, autonomy, like this is going to be a good one. And so here we are at that. So before we jump into that, when you said the anal scene, the DP scene, the showcase stuff, the gangbang, right? I mean, a showcase, that's an exciting thing to be able to get, right? And it's a big deal, right? And a company is like investing this time and this money into you, and then they're going to do these things that are whatever. And it sounds like you finally are like, holy shit, we're going to break some barriers. I mean, to me, honestly, you sound like someone who studied at like the actor's studio, because and you see people like any of the greats. I mean, Marilyn Monroe, right? And not to be like cliche because you have blonde hair or whatever. I'm just grabbing her because it's the first one I thought of. Like, she was tired of playing the fucking same thing over and over and over again. So she went to the actor's studio, you know, she did the Misfits movie, and she didn't care if it did good or not. She just wanted to break that fucking cycle, that fucking rinse and repeat thing that you're talking about. And I think, you know, a lot of the Disney people go bonkers because they want to break that. So I love that. And I admire that. And I hope the audience is picking up on that. And so you get this showcase, and had you done anal? Had you done DPs? Had you done something like that in your private life ever? Or was this like the first time?
So I didn't do anal for the first time on camera. I didn't do that. Jesus. Unfortunately, I hate to, you know, burst some bubbles, but
sure.
A lot of prep goes into anal, especially on camera. And if you're doing it for the very first time on camera, I don't know, if you are actually really doing it for the first time on camera, all the respect, Godspeed, you know, good for you. But for me, it took some, you know, some kind of like, you know, like practice to kind of like learn like how my body works. Like, you're on camera, like you need to learn like what works, what doesn't work, how to prepare, how to eat beforehand, you know. So that's why I'm like, it wasn't my first time. I had actually started doing anal content with some male performers that I felt comfortable enough to kind of work with me with learning how to do anal, to even see if I liked it, actually, because if I didn't like it, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So I kind of started preparing and training for my showcase with a few very good performers. And, you know, we created this content, but I told them, I was like, we are not releasing this until my showcase comes out. And they were totally okay with it. They were just happy to help. So that's kind of how I did it. I was offered, well, I had wanted to do my first anal, but I was offered the showcase instead of just my first anal scene. And so from there, I was like, all right, well, now I have to, you know, prepare and kind of get my shit together. And so it was kind of like a little bit of a process, but I did kind of seek it out. I seeked it out, but the showcase was my first industry anal DP gangbang.
So, well, first of all, so the whole time that you're in the adult industry, right, those first 2 years before things get crazy with the anal and the DP, right, are you still doing, well, once the boyfriend gets booted to the fucking curb, right, are you doing OnlyFans content alongside of your, okay, great. Because I think that had to, so it's like a boy, girl, is it girl on OnlyFans? Like what?
I was doing solo, and I was doing girl, boy, girl. I was collabing with all of my co-stars for the most part.
Sure.
And I was not really doing as much cosplay because I was so busy. I was actually booked all the time, and I still to this day I'm very grateful to be booked a lot. But I was booked all the time. I kind of wasn't really in tune with like my authenticity and like my hobbies. I was just doing like very standard naked lingerie glamour shoots, like very just like whatever. But then like I got bored doing that, so I started doing cosplay again. I kind of touched back into like my nerdy side, right? And started like, I like invested in like a whole gaming PC setup and started to kind of like actually, you know, like embrace that a little bit more. And like at that same time, it's like when I was like, should I do anal? It was just kind of like I'm bored. I don't know what else to do. Should I just take it another step further?
Yeah. Have you done anal on your OnlyFans, like dressed up as in a cosplay?
I actually did. So actually before I joined porn, I did with dildos, cosplay anal and DP video. And it was one of my best selling videos. Actually, it was from like 2020. Like, it was one of those, like, I am proud of myself for doing that, and I'm surprised I was as clean as I was, because at that time I didn't know about cleaning out or anything. I'm like, I don't know how I did that, but looking back on that, like, I have learned a lot, and being in the industry and being able to prepare properly actually, I think, set me up for success with anal, and being able to shoot it comfortably, enjoy it, and just kind of like run with it versus like going into it blind.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, people talk about like, being on like the gummy bear diet for 3 days before they shoot an anal or something. I don't know. There's something about
you don't even need to do that. I eat dinner the night before. And honestly, if you just take Imodium, you're pretty much solid.
See there now. There's an insider tip. Make sure you take the Imodium responsibly out there. But there you go.
Responsibly. Don't take 12.
Jesus, no, oh my God. Yeah, no. That's definitely a hospital visit.
Yeah, it's very dehydration right there. Ugh.
Yeah. Okay, and then the DP, and again, like, if there's newbies in the audience, DP stands for double penetration. No, we're not shaming any newbies here. We're here to entertain, but educate, right? So the DP, talk about like mentally how you prepared for that and the nerves and like what it felt like to actually do it. Did you come? Was it a fucking an amazing experience? Like all of the things.
So the first time I did DP, I was in love with it. I'll be straight up. I was kind of nervous going into it, right? But I had two really good friends of mine in the industry, and I was like, do you want to DP me for the first time? And this is actually content. So we actually have this content out on the internet. It's there on all of my sites, ManyVids, OnlyFans, as well as the male performers. They have it too. But at that time, I was really comfortable with anal, and I was like, well, I'm doing a DP for my showcase. So I was like, let's do it. The very first, I had practiced with toys beforehand, but toys, honestly, I feel like are harder than the actual real thing because they're firm, static, hard, plastic, fake toys, right? Versus like an actual human being with like some flesh and like give, right? So whenever the first time I did a DP, I filmed it for content, and it was the very first time, and you can even see in my face, I'm like coming to Jesus moment, right? Like I'm realizing I really like it, right? And I think like if you don't like anal, you're probably not gonna like DP. But because I really did like anal, I realized like, oh, DP is just like, like another level. Like I felt like I was transcending. I actually really liked it. I actually like it more than just anal by itself, right? I love anal, but if I have a choice.
Sure.
So actually I ended up realizing I really, really, really liked it. And I was like, this is trouble because now I've just like unlocked this new desire and like fetish. I wouldn't say fetish, but like this new like, thing that I'm like, oh, fuck. I love this. And I was like, this is trouble.
Okay. So, can you describe to the audience what an orgasm, if you had one, what an orgasm feels like in a DP? And I've asked people this question before. We've gotten all sorts of insane answers. I don't know what yours is going to be, but like, what does an orgasm feel like when you're being double penetrated?
I would say the entire experience, orgasm, everything, the sensation, the experience, all of it is overwhelming and mind-numbing in a good way, which is like what I like. I like to just like be fully engulfed into it. And I feel like that's what happens with me, especially with DP. I feel like it's so like overwhelming, so intense in a good way, right? It's like I can't really describe it at all. And like all my gay friends tell me, they're like, like that's the one thing that like they wish they could experience is being DP'd like a woman. Like all of my male gay friends, they say that. They're like, dude, I've heard it's amazing. I wish I could experience that because it is a very overwhelming experience. Like I really liked it. It's very mind numbing and I kind of just like go brain dead in a good way. And I really just really love it. Right. I don't know. For me, it's a very overwhelming and intense experience in a great way.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cum drunk, like dick drunk, kind of like do anything you want to me kind of subspace that we've called it on the show before, where it's like you're you're just there and it's this like you said, like transcendent or like just you're sort of like whacked out in the best way possible. Yeah. So do you then start doing like a ton of DVs like after that?
I kind of actually did, to be honest. So when I went independent and free agent, as as a performer, I book my own work now. And so when I first started booking my own work, I was freshly breaking into the anal category, right? Like my showcase had just come out. Like this is all very new. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do more anal. I'm ready to do more DPs. I want to. I'm trying to remember. I'm positive my first DP after my showcase was actually in Europe. So I went to Europe in February, actually this year. And Europe is a whole nother ball game. It's a whole different playing
the
ground.
Intensity, right?
And if you don't do anal, you're not. I don't know. You're just not going to get that much work. And and so I went out to Europe kind of because I was wanting to do the more extreme stuff. I wanted to do more, and I felt like I was kind of just not getting that in the States. And even coming back, I still don't get that as much. I have done a few DPs, and like I've done a nice amount of DPs and anal since coming back. But in Europe, that was like all I shot for an entire month, and that I don't know. That's what I wanted, right? I was like bored. Sure. So like when I get bored, I'm like, like I want to do more weird stuff that like, kind of takes you out of that stagnant mindset and feeling like you're stuck and just kind of going nowhere. Right. And then unmotivated. So I kind of had to seek it out. I kind of like, which is what I do, like if I want something, I go and get it. And I get it. I make sure I go through with it, and, I don't let anything hold me back.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it's a theme running through this episode is like that you have that fight in you, which is fucking creatively though too. And, you're empowered, you have your own agency and all those things, but it's like, again, like you want something, and you get bored easy, which makes for a fucking great artist. I mean, that's the thing is, porn is entertainment, right? But it's also like art. Everything can be done in that way. And I think having someone like you with the mind that it sounds like you have in that field, I think it's always going to be exciting. And on that tip, on that notion, a gangbang, right? So how long after the first DP for the showcase was then the gangbang? Like, was it a couple months, couple weeks? And you can go right into like how many guys, what did it feel like, all of the things.
I want to say my gangbang was pretty soon after my first DP. So my showcase was mostly filmed within 2 months. I want to say March and April of last year. I'm like, time. Last year we did the very final scene, actually, the girl anal lesbian kind of thing that we did. That was filmed in like June. So that was a little bit delayed, which wasn't really ideal. I'd hated like waiting 2 months for that one. I would say almost 3 months. But so the gangbang was pretty much right after. I would say like 2 weeks after the DP. And the gangbang, I was actually a little bit nervous about it. I was nervous. I was like when I saw every guy come in, there was 5 of them. There was 5 guys. I saw one of them each come in, and I was like, oh God, this is real. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I started getting overwhelmed, right? But like in a good way. And I was like, I got this. And then I think as soon as we started rolling and I like was there and like in the middle of all these guys, it just brain dead. I went somewhere else in my mind, which is what I loved. I didn't even have to think. They just did everything. And that is kind of like what I love, right? So it was scary at first, like before I had ever done it. But after that, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I am just on another planet, and I like that. It's like kind of what I seek.
Yeah. So again, you're right into that sort of subspace, that submissive sort of like do whatever. I'm loving this kind of vibe in the gangbang. And so then do you start like, oh my God, I love gangbangs?
Yeah, so I start realizing, I think from there, I kind of go into like more of a philosophical mindset. I start to realize I feel more authentic and real when I can go to that place, right? I feel like I am actually, fully like enjoying and involved and forgetting that the cameras are there, which is like what a lot of performers talk about. They're like, oh, like I could just forget about the cameras. I can't unless you can put me in that mindset. And so that kind of like taught me like, okay, I know what I need to do if I really want to just like show who I am and let loose on camera and kind of not think about performing, you know, entirely like, oh, angles, like my scripts, like, oh, like blah, 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 like what I'm supposed to do versus like, if I am just given, you know, free reign and I can just be and act and do whatever I want to do and just, you know, accomplish the scene idea of the gangbang, the DP, and make a really good product, which it is a good product when you're fully there and you're fully authentic and, you know, you give it your all, even if you don't feel like, because I'm not really thinking about it, which I feel like gives her a great performance in a way, versus like feeling like it is very performative and very fake. So that kind of taught me like, okay, now I know I'm two different people on camera. I can be this very fake and scripted, performative and, you know, whatever character, or I can be the real Haley Spades on camera. And so that showed me that I have two different mindsets on camera.
Yeah. The two Haleys. I think that's what we've been driving at this whole time. I think I love that concept. Like I talked to you about it forever. I mean, and that gangbang won you.
Well, I didn't win that one. I was nominated though for best gangbang of AVN.
Yeah,
and I was nominated best showcase. I won best VR sex scene.
I mean, my bad, Haley. You have
but even being nominated. Even being nominated to me feels like I won.
Yeah, and I was trying to make a joke out of it, but like, there's a ton of awards here in these notes. So congratulations on all that. But what it sounds like is happening is that you're being yourself and people are noticing and they're giving you awards and they're nominating you for awards for it. You said being nominated is just because, you know, it feels like I couldn't even imagine.
I feel like I already won if I'm nominated.
Yeah. And I knew you were going to say that because you just seem like someone who's doing it for the art of it and the excitement of it and the personalization of it. And I mean, way to fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, winning and nominations are great and fun and it feels good, but that's not what I'm like solely after.
Yeah, I would imagine, you know, since it sounds like we're similar with work stuff, it's like, it's kind of about just like doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and like enjoying that part of doing it. Cause if you don't, you're fucked, like, and not in a good way. Right. Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah. Whenever I started getting really, really bored and like, I go through, you know, like waves, you know, of like, oh, I'm really, really loving this. I'm having a great time. I feel like I'm doing the best I can versus like sometimes like you're like, oh my God, I'm unmotivated. I'm bored. I don't want to do anything, you know, like that's very normal. And so if I can try to avoid that dip as much as I can, that's what you know, if I can't get out of that dip, I'm like, then I'm not having fun and I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. And again, that's showing in your work clearly by the goddamn like huge list of nominations and awards that you have. So, okay. A couple of quick things and we're going to end the party. One, and I'm doing this for me selfishly. You were on The Idol, which was the HBO show with The Weeknd.
I was.
Lily Rose Depp. What was that like? Did you meet The Weeknd? I have to know. He's one of my favorite artists.
I didn't meet him. He was not actually there. I met Troye Sivan and I met I mean, like, I didn't really like meet them, but like we were all like in the same like place, like working together. So yeah, Lily Rose Depp, Troye Sivan, Jenny from Blackpink.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I didn't meet The Weeknd actually, which, you know, whatever. But yeah, I was on that. I was on The Idol.
Yeah, I mean, what a pop culture thing to put on your resume. If anyone out there watch The Idol, listen, I'm a huge Weeknd fan. They had that thing in the bag until the final episode, and then they just kind of blew it out. We're not going to blame anybody.
That show was a mess to begin with. When I was on that set, when I got casted, they had actually overthrown a lot of stuff that they'd already filmed from what I heard from the other dancers. I was only a dancer on that, so the other dancers had said they had done weeks of filming and dancing, and then they decided, nope, we're not using any of that.
Yeah. What could have been, right? Those things are sitting in some vault somewhere. Yeah. Well, I mean, but still, you were involved. I think it's super, super cool.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a really great experience.
Yeah, and it fits with everything you're doing that you got to have a cool experience like that too. Okay, so we're here at the end. Number one, do you have anything you can say? You can tease? Obviously, you're getting into the more, whatever, kinkier, rougher, fun stuff, right? Is there stuff that's coming? And then I have one more question, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Stuff that's coming. As of right now, there's nothing like super, super like new, shocking, exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting. I'm like, I filmed a really cool gangbang actually in Europe, and it hasn't been released yet for Evil Angel, and it honestly trumps the gangbang that I was nominated for, and I'm upset that it's not out yet. It was absolutely insanity. It hasn't come out yet. When it comes out, it's insane. But as of right now, I don't have any super, super big projects. That's just because I'm doing a lot of traveling right now. But I'm always doing cosplay, and I want to do more gangbangs. So you can at least know that that's coming. I love gangbangs.
Well, yeah, they're gonna be tuned in for sure. At the end, can you give some advice to someone out there who maybe wants to start OnlyFans, wants to do adult, whatever, but they just can't get over that fear piece? Like, what would you tell them?
I would say don't be afraid to say no. Don't be scared to put your foot down. You can have boundaries, say no.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that advice. Hayley Spades, thank you so much for being here with me on the show. Let's tell these party goers where they can find you on socials and where they can find your OnlyFans and just like dump out buckets of cash all over you.
So my OnlyFans and my Twitter are Hayley Spades. Simple, easy, straightforward. My current Instagram is not Hayley for legal reasons. My old one got zucked about 3 weeks ago. So right now we're using not Hayley for legal reasons. That's about it. You can just Google Hayley Spades on Twitter, Instagram. It's everything you need.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love to have you back. We'll have to figure it out, but you've been great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We'll talk soon. Big thank you to my guest, Hayley Spades, for being with me on the show this week. Go check out everything she is doing on OnlyFans. Go follow her on Instagram. If you guys are loving guests like Hayley, you want to see more of Hayley, perhaps she'll return in the future. We will see. But you're just loving Sex Party. You want to show some love, some appreciation, some desire for more, right? And you're listening to this on platforms like Apple, Spotify, or iHeart. What do you do? Well, you could leave a rating. You could leave a review. I appreciate that very much. It's very nice, but fuck all that. What you really want to do is you want to make sure you click the subscribe button so you never miss a new episode every single Wednesday. If you are watching on YouTube, I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, when's the last time you had Taco Bell? And what did you have? Okay. Leave it in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, what can you do? Well, you could like this video. You could like all the videos. You could leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But the most important thing, do you have any idea what I'm going to say? Of course you do. The most important thing you can do is click subscribe to this channel so you never miss a new episode of the show every single Wednesday forever. I love you guys. If you want to talk, you know where to find me, right? I'm always available in the DMs on Instagram, and I will see you all right back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @DustinRybka.